All right, y'all. You guys have asked for it. Repeatedly, you guys have begged me to do this video. And so here we are. We're going to do a tier list today of all of the Festa units that have recently dropped in DanChro. Well, basically all the Festa units. So I even have the first anniversary Bell and Harmonia here. And I'm going to rank each one of these by my perception of them. Now, that does mean for units like Alan and Alfred that I notoriously did not have a favorable opinion of. On the back side of that, kind of how I feel now that we have some hindsight on them and things like that. But also, this is my opinion, and I know some of you do differ quite a bit in your opinions. So, get ready to comment. I'm sure the comments are going to be interesting. Just please keep them civil. Now, we'll start off with Alan. Why not, right? So Alan's very interesting. I did not like this guy when he first dropped. When we did his trial, and I did it again most recently on stream, this dude cratered in his trial. I was very, very distraught with that. But let's talk about what he does real quick, because I think this guy does warrant a second look, okay? His Technique 1 deals 1 hit front-facing linear AoE attack damage while granting own unit movement speed. That's only to him. He gets a big speed buff with a stack effect up to 5 stacks. So in other words, he can stack his movement speed 5 times. This dude is quick. This dude literally hits a point where he can spam alts. That is crazy. That is wild. His Technique 2 deals a 5-hit front-facing AoE attack to enemies and grants own unit status ailment resistance effect. So, nice. Status ailment is good, but, you know, shy of PvP. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think you're going to use this guy much in PvP, if I'm completely honest. He kind of like the new Otaro takes a little bit to build up to his best spot. I've seen him there, but not as much as some other units that we've seen, especially non-Festas, interestingly enough. I would argue I probably see Bell and Harmonia, well, probably Bell, less Harmonia nowadays, in Battle Arena more than I see Alan, but that's me. Now let's talk about his ult, because that is interesting. 5-hit front-facing AoE attacks while granting all units, that's everybody on your team, a continuous technique gauge accumulation rate and continuous special move gauge accumulation rate. In other words, all of your skills for everybody else on the team gets better. And that is amazing. Additionally, the attack power increases based on the number of movement speed buffs. In other words, how many stacks you have in your movement speed from move 1. And buff stacks are consumed when activating the ult, but you can continuously buff them up. Basically, like, do a skill 1, then an ult, skill 1. And literally hits that point where you can just, like, spam your skill 1s and do an ult, spam your skill 1s, do an ult, and just keep that rotation going. He gets stupid fast, and he makes everyone stupid fast. I've seen this guy do insane stuff. My problem with him is he is so squishy, so incredibly squishy, that when this dude did his own trial, now, admittedly, he didn't have an assist, and a lot of people have criticized that, he cratered. And I've done this multiple times. Literally attempting to get the best out of him, he gets, he just gets his ass handed to him by those lowest level grunts in the game. And that's discerning. That is disconcerting. That is just, for me, a problem. If you have the Freya assist, great, but you kind of have to have the Freya assist. Now, I don't have any of the assists here. We can kind of do our own thing with those. I think those kind of are their own category. We're just talking about the adventurers and their capabilities today. And the big problem with saying, yes, put Freya on him, is with Freya, you've got to make some decisions. Are you doing Alan? Are you doing Otaro? Or are you doing Hegy? That's it. Like, you've got to choose. You literally, it's just like in the anime or the manga the light novels. It's just like in the story where you have to choose your side. And I like that. I think it's interesting, but it does leave me wanting. And this is going to be a very, very unpopular opinion. He has some great skills, but I think he's limited in his uses. I'm going to put him at B tier. I think for what he does, he's awesome. But for what he lacks, it really leaves me wanting more out of this unit. And when he first dropped, at the time that he dropped, it was when they were spamming these things left, right, and center. I told people not to summon because I honestly believed, number one, we were going to get reruns. Number two, at the time, the free-to-play players did not have enough currency to choose between this and the other units that were available. And the other units that were available, arguably, in my opinion, were better. I know this is, I spent a lot of time with him, but I know it's going to be unpopular. That's my opinion. And while we're on the topic of my hot takes, we'll just go ahead and jump on the Alfred brothers. So, skill 1 deals 2 hit front-facing AoE attacks to enemy, grants 1 stack of shield increase to all of own units, can stack up to 20, so he can just do an insane number of shields on everybody. Furthermore, applies stun effect to all enemies. That all sounds really awesome on paper. Technique 2 deals 4 hit front-facing AoE attack to enemies, grants shield to self. So basically, you give everybody a shield, and you give a little bit of extra to yourself. Sounds really good, but I'll be honest with you, I just don't feel like we're getting enough out of this. Like, that's literally the sentence for Technique 2. Everybody else gets extra stuff. They get stacks, they get attack buffs, they get everything else. It's just kind of what they get. That's it. That's the thing. Then we get their alt, deals 2 hit front-facing AoE attacks to enemies. Additionally, grants all of own units a shield and 5 stacks of shield increase, can stack up to 20. Furthermore, applies reduce endurance to enemies. So basically, their whole point in the team is to shield everybody, to create this big, all-encompassing shield, and to say, okay, well, these guys are now basically shielding everybody and themselves. They don't really produce any damage. And I'll be honest, I was completely disillusioned with how they worked when we did their trial. I don't own them. I didn't go very deep in for them. I think I went 3 or 4 summons in and said, you know, at the time I was just done with it because, once again, I like to base most of my opinions on what should the free-to-play player do. And I really felt for the free-to-play player, you're going to get enough opportunities to get these guys again. They're going to rerun, which they did. And if you want them at that point, you can get them. I think in hindsight, honestly, they still have not impressed me. I think they're okay. They're better than a lot of other URs in the game. But as far as the Festa goes, I think they're hands down, undoubtedly, the worst Festa. So I'm going to put them in C tier. Not D tier. I don't think they deserve D tier. I know I dog on them a lot, but I think C tier is, you know, they're just, for me, below the bar. And while defensively they do what they do, they don't bring enough other stuff to the table for me to want to continue using them. And I will say, even then, if you want to continue arguing with me, which I know a lot of you do, how many times do you see them in MSS? You don't. You see the green Otaro in MSS. You don't see them. That's my point. I don't think they do enough. Let those comments go wild. Let's talk about the next unit. You know, and we're going to go right down the list. I don't think anybody's going to argue with this assessment. We're going to just go right here into Artemis, and I'm just going to say 100% A number 1, Artemis is S tier. She was my first level 100. I regret nothing about that decision. Everything she does is amazing. I don't even need to go into what she does. Most of what she does requires absolutely no introduction. Fantastic unit all the way around. She's not squishy. She's a great attacker. She does an insane amount of damage. If there is one problem is that she has to sacrifice her HP to get the kind of damage you want, but there's enough items that dropped with her, and they're completely obtainable now. Items, scene cards, and not only that, she gets 1,000% endurance with her ult. So set her up with an ult. If she does have a short side, it's that you have to heal her, or if you do heal her, that she loses her buffs. But it's like, She has enough endurance. She's fine. Like, honestly, she's crazy. Absolutely S tier material all the way. Period, end of discussion. Fight me in the comments. I'm also going to put Ryu up there. And here's the thing. I want to emphasize this. Ryu, I think, is absolutely what a defensive unit should be. She basically is just a slightly better version of the green Otaro. Now, green Otaro can't produce the level of damage, but I think she can. I think she's fine. She works great. She defends well. She does a lot of damage. She's very reliable. I use her all the time. I think, honestly, she is only slightly eked out by the green Otaro. Not this Otaro, but the one that dropped last year. I think she only is edged out a little bit by him in most defensive spots, but she has enough offense. She could solo a lot of events. Fantastic unit. I would say she's on the level of, like, you know, a mid-grade attacker while also being able to do her defensive job. That's just, I think she's amazing. I think she's fantastic. I skipped Belle. I absolutely adore Belle. Belle is great for just about everything. The only problem I see with Belle is we're comparing him to other Festas. When he dropped, he and Harmonia were the only two Festas in the game, short of their Festa adventurers, not assists. And he was good at everything, and he's still good at everything. Man, it's tough because I think A tier is too harsh for him, but I think S tier is, like, the bar is so high. You know what? I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make him an A.5. I think he's awesome. He's amazing. He works well in just about every respect. If I just had one complaint, it's that he has been slightly, I don't even say power crept per se. I would just say utility crept by Artemis and Ryu. I have him level 90. I was going to make him my first level 100, but Artemis eked him out. And for that reason alone, I think 8.5 makes the most sense. And then, of course, we're going to have to talk about Harmonia. And I want to put Harmonia in 8.5. I think they're about on the same level. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I run her in everything. She's capable of producing damage. She's capable of taking damage. She's a great healer. She's my go-to healer. She's fantastic in every respect. And because of her utility and utility alone, she is, in my opinion, S tier. She's a must-have unit. And if you do not have her, if you've just started the game and you did not get an opportunity to grab her, when she comes back, mark my words, unless we have somebody that has completely usurped her, do it. She is worth it. She is fantastic. Everybody in that S tier, I think, is a must-own unit. Fantastic. Awesome. She was my first unit that I MLB'd out of the gate, and I regret nothing for it. She is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'm going to avoid Hegy and Heon for now, and I'm going to talk about the new Otaro. Now, where are we going to put the new Otaro? Because if we're just talking, like, raw defense, I'm going to put him all the way down here. If we're talking offense after he builds up, he is amazing. He hits mega hard. The dude is a hoss, an absolute just force to be reckoned with. But here's my problem with him. He lacks a lot of basic utility. This guy you cannot put in a lot of situations and just let him go. He did, however, solo some events last time around in Uncharted Battlefield. And for that reason, I'm going to give him A tier. Fight me in the comments. I adore him. The downside to him is you have to let him build up. But when it comes to, like, even in Uncharted Battlefield, he was fantastic. He held his own. He was great. I've been using him in so many events. I even found ways to run him in Magic Stone Scramble. Although he is a bit squishy there, I do have to swap out of him frequently and heal. I just like the guy. And fight me in the comments. Maybe it's my, my barbarian class showing. I just really like this unit. I enjoy him a lot. Now we've got to talk about Heon and Hegy. I'm going to start with Hegy. Now, when Hegy first dropped, I would 100% put him up here. But I do think he's kind of lost utility for me. He's still really good. He's absolutely phenomenal. He does really well for what he does. But I think he's just kind of lost his luster a little bit in comparison to some of the other units that have dropped recently. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in A tier. Now, in fairness, the only two units that I don't own are the units in B and C tier. That's why I went so deep into what they do and why I went so deep into, you know, their skills and all that, because I don't have that much personal experience with them. However, I have seen what they're capable of. But I want to emphasize there's no D tiers, and I left D tier on here because while I'm not a huge fan of those two units, I do see Alan's uses, and I do see Alfred's uses. I just don't think either one is just flat trash. It's just, for my summons, I did not see the value in going after them when we had all this other stuff on the table. If I had to go in for Ryu or Artemis, and they're up, I'm going for Ryu or Artemis all day long. Hands down. I would go for Otaro or more dupes in Bell over them. That's just how strongly I feel about this. Now we have to talk about Heon. I like Heon, and he's got a lot of utility. He works in a lot of things. I've used him on my my Battle Arena team. I've used him in Magic Stone Scramble. I have used him everywhere and anywhere that I could. I've even run him recently. He's soloed all of the Uncharted Battlefield, or Abyssal Explorations. In fact, I'm going to release a whole video of him just handling Abyssal Exploration. I like him a lot. I just don't think he's on the same level as that. And so I think this is, dare I do another 8.5? I think he's an 8.5. He has got S tier qualities. He's got a ton of utility. He's amazing, just like the Festa Bell. And I would love to put them in S tier. And I'd love to tell you like the best of the best of the best. But if I had to compare them to Artemis, Ryu, and even Harmonia, dare I say, they just lose out. They're like a 1.5 below them. And I know it's going to be a hot take to say that when Otaro is like, I'm going to put Otaro right. I would literally sandwich them right between Otaro and Hegy. I really 100% would. But that's my opinion. And I'm going to stick to it. Let the comments fly. I just keep them civil. But we do not have any D tiers, and I do want to emphasize that. We have no D or below. If I thought a unit was complete trash, I would tell you. But this is my opinion. I'm sure it's going to be a terrible take. Let me know what you guys thought. I'll catch you on the next one.